Welcome back to the First Team. I'm Joe DeLeone. With me is my co-host, NFL draft analyst, Ryan Roberts of A to Z Sports. Today, we're going to be doing another in-season scouting episode. We are breaking down the performance between Georgia and Clemson. If you missed the first one that we did, Notre Dame and Texas A&M, the way that we're doing this, we're bringing up guys that stood out, and then any players that we want to bring to the table is guys that we think could be eventual draft prospects, or even further than that, guys that we think are going to shine and eventually maybe become premier starters in the NFL. Now, Ryan, this Clemson Georgia game was really underwhelming and boring to watch on TV. It was exciting to sit and watch the film because you started to see where all of these pieces, these young players for Georgia, were starting to funnel in. I just want to jump in, though, talking about the quarterback matchup here, because we know the names, and I'd rather spend more time on the players that nobody was catching on the broadcast. I was impressed by Carson Beck. I thought that Carson Beck looked really poised. I thought that he made a number of really just strong, decisive throws. I think that he's improving to become more cerebral in his decision-making. Wasn't perfect, as you're saying here.
Right.
Some things that need to be worked on. But when you compare him with Cade Klubnik, man, it's like, oh my God, why is it that these Clemson quarterbacks at one point or another are just afraid to take risks? It's unbearable to try and watch this offense at Clemson, and it's going to be a really freaking slow year all of 2024.
Man, I'm just like so fine with Carson Beck, Joe. I mean, Carson Beck is quarterback one to me right now, and unless there's like a major ascension, well, I shouldn't say that, because there are like Shedeur Sanders could get there, maybe an outlier like a Cam Ward could get into that conversation if he is able to stack days. But Carson Beck is exactly what I thought he was in the preseason. Like, he's exactly what he thought he was. He's a big-bodied pocket passer with good to plus arm strength on the NFL level that is a sound decision maker, is pretty strong in the pocket. I think he's going to be a good NFL quarterback. I still struggle to see like needle moving quarterback play. Like, I don't know if you dump him into any situation, he'll be able to be incredibly successful, but I think in the right spots, in the right system, he can be a Kirk Cousins level quarterback, which there's nothing wrong with. Kirk Cousins has put up some crazy numbers during the course of his career, and he's still a plus NFL starter. There's no doubt about that. But I do still question the ceiling. The one thing I did like about Carson Beck a little bit was I did see him move a little bit more off his spot in this game. There's a couple rushes for first downs in this where I was like, okay, if you can just be the consistent pocket quarterback you are, and then occasionally you pick up a first down with your legs enough to just keep a defense honest, then maybe there's a little bit more upside there. But like, he checks boxes, but I don't know if those boxes are necessarily like getting me super excited, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I don't know why I tried to sound so hyped up on him, but
he is the greatest quarterback prospect of all time.
Right, shut up. He's playing as well-rounded as he needs to. And I always like to bring this up. Like, he didn't have the Matt Barkley effect, which is Matt Barkley, I think, is the guy that you always can come back to of early preseason hype and then really starts to just crumble and crack, and then his performances just start to underwhelm on a consistent basis, and then it just falls flat to the point where he ends up being a day 3 pick. I want guys to not be like Carson Beck that had strong junior seasons. He's playing, I think, improved football, and he's going up against a pretty tough defense that had a good secondary, a really good defensive line.
Yes.
It's recognizable. He is going to be, I think, in this class, I think he's just cementing himself as going to be the one guy we know will be a first-round pick. Like, I feel like at the end of the day, the NFL is going to fall in love with the multi-year starter, played on a really good team, was a winner. That's the one that we always come back to. High character kid is the same crap that we always come back to. And then you mentioned like Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders are probably going to overtake him.
I think there's two quarterbacks that I would be I think the NFL is going to value it as a first-round quarterback right now, and I think that is Shedeur, and I do think that is Carson Beck, because I know we're not talking about Shedeur in Colorado today, Joe, but I actually just heard a very good note on character and just kind of apparently Shedeur is a great human being, so that's going to help him obviously in the long term of this evaluation process. But yeah, like Carson Beck is a safe bet, right? He is actually I would say he's one of the higher floor quarterbacks that I've ever evaluated. And because I do think that there is like the size component, the structure component, the going through multiple reads perspective. Like he does a lot of good baseline things that's going to allow him to stick on the next level and be a starting quarterback. Again, the question long term when we get to April is going to be, can a Cam Ward make that ascension? Is Shedeur Sanders a higher upside kid that will have that conversation of being the first quarterback off the board? Like those question marks, we don't know the answer to right now, but I do think that we have a very sound understanding that Carson Beck is going to play a lot of football in the NFL level. Like there's no doubt about that in my mind.
To get back to this game, this Georgia defense is loaded with just ridiculous athletes that are starting to pop up more and more. Before we really get into, I have a long list of guys that I want to talk about with this Georgia defense, but I want to throw out there guys that we already kind of knew coming into this game that we wanted to be reaffirmed on. The two, one was a player who had some buzz from the NFL, which was Demonte Capehart. I thought that wanting to see him in a more established role where he was on the field more and not just rotating as a gap plugger, man, right. I see it. I can see a late first round progression for him, man. Like there was some serious immovable power. He was generating some really good penetration. He was able to create disruption to clear up lanes for his linebackers and also to get hands on ball carriers. I see where he could be like a Dexter Lawrence type guy. I understand where that hype was despite him not having a ton of reps and a ton of stats from last year because he was buried amongst another group of guys. Capehart is as good as advertised.
Well, death taxes and Clemson has a great defensive line, right? Like every single year we have this. Capehart, after sitting behind the likes of Brian Bresee and Tyler Davis and Ruko Rororo the last 2 years, like he just got buried. But when you watch this 2023 film, which we did in the preseason, we talked about like he is probably next up because the flashes that he had in 2023 as a backup were tremendous. I mean, this kid is 6'4 plus. This kid's 320 pounds. Not as long as I thought he was in the preseason. I don't know if you saw that, but Jim Nagy had put out that his arm length is 32 inches, which is like it's fine, but it's not. Like I thought it was gonna be closer to 33 potentially based upon what I saw on film. But regardless, kid's powerful and kid's explosive, and he's got that. If he continues to mature from just a technical perspective and playing reps, I do think that he's due for a massive ascension. I will say that he still was a little bit more flash than full substance in this game, but like the flash plays were dumb. Flash plays were dumb. On the other hand, Joe, if we're talking about a future kid, dude, I mean, I just feel like Peter Woods is going to be a first round pick. Like I would find a hard time poking holes in Peter Woods right now. Like that kid was, because he's not a perfect body type for the NFL. He's going to be like 6'2", 310 pounds or something. So he's a little bit sawed off. But Joe, I mean, I poked holes in this of him like starting at defensive end, and I still think it's silly because that body type.
He's so wide. That was the first thing that popped out to me. I was like, why is he's able to finish and come downhill? And it's like, why is this kid built like a 3 tech and we're asking him to rush from the outside? That doesn't make any sense to me. And I guess they've kind of did that with Brian Bresee, and he kind of has like a similar-ish build to Brian Bresee. He's wearing the same number as him.
They did the same thing with Christian Wilkins too, a little bit. Like he played a little bit more of wide techniques. I think it's honestly they know
they recruit so many defensive tackles. Is that what?
No, actually,
where do we put this guy?
they have such a deep interior defensive line. They're like, we need to get like 3 of these guys on the field at least at a time, right? So, and the good thing about their system is they play a lot of odd. They play obviously some even as well, but they move up front a lot. So like they'll twist, they'll stunt, and you'll see a lot of reps where like Peter Woods is going to fold inside on certain stunts and different movements stuff up front. So he's going to end up being an interior player from the movement perspective, and then obviously on the next level. But dang, dude, that kid's powerful. Like it's wild the amount of power that he has as a true sophomore. So like we're not talking about a 2025 NFL draft prospect here. We're talking about a 2026, but he might be the best defensive player on this team right now as a true sophomore.
Yeah.
Like it's a very good argument that he is.
Without a doubt, I think that it's a good defense, but he was certainly a bright spot for how good he looks as a true sophomore. I had one other guy that his name has been floated out there a little bit already, and I think that it's a little too late to serve him as a bring him to the table guy because I almost wonder if he's going to be a part of this draft class. Jared Wilson, the starting center for Georgia, man. Jordan Reed, who came on the show
Talked about
of
him,
ESPN. Yeah, he's posted about him, and you and I texted about him, and we were kind of saying, like, I wonder what this kid does. I thought he was super stout. I thought that he moved fantastic at the second level. I thought he was a pretty fluid, light-footed mover. I loved his base. He on double teams was really exciting to watch because he's got that just really good understanding of leverage of, I know how to use my inside hand to get in up on your chest plate and then to ride your hip with my outside hand. That's really good, strong technique. And we're talking about a guy that didn't even start last year that seems to be just already pretty well-rounded. I don't know if he's going to be a part of this class because he's listed as a red shirt.
We kind of need him to be, though.
Center, so.
It's a poor center class right now. So this kid only played like 100-something snaps, I think, last year, maybe like 200 snaps. It was a very low number. So evaluating him based upon his reps behind Cedric Van Pran when he got into the game, it's a question. Like, I don't like doing it just in general because it's just such a small sample size. But I mean, literally, we just put him up for recommendation at RPM, and like off of one game, I put a top 100 on him. I'm just like, I think that kid's going day two, easy.
And he might go higher. Like, he could improve and go higher than that.
He might be
the one game he had.
Yeah, I mean, I know Jackson Powers Johnson ended up going second round because of the medical stuff that popped up there, but this kid could be that first center off the board. So whether that's a late first round pick or somewhere in the second round, like, I do think that Jared Wilson has an opportunity to rise that way. 6'3", 310 pounds. He's densely built. He's pretty compact. But I saw a great video. I don't know if you remember LaCharles Bentley that played center for the New Orleans Saints. He did a breakdown of him and kind of talked about like how, even though he's not the longest kid, obviously playing center, he knows how to utilize his length and size and play long. And I'm like, this is really good stuff. We need more LaCharles Bentley in our lives, by the way, because that was just good, thorough, honest analysis, man. Like, that was great stuff. But yeah, this kid has a chance to be a major riser. That interior offensive line, just in general, I haven't seen enough of Dylan Fairchild. I watched a little bit of him in the preseason, but not enough to have like a fully in-depth understanding of him. But him paired with Jared Wilson and Tate Ratledge on the interior, I have some questions about the tackles because I just don't think Xavier Truss is a true tackle, and I still
Monroe Freeling also like I don't know what's
Monroe
up with him.
Monroe was good in high school though, man. I'm interested to see what he looks like.
He seems raw and not filled out. That was kind of the thing that just stood out to me. Well, and like I don't understand. They almost were rotating tackles because like Truss is coming into the game and then Monroe's coming into the game. Just like pick a guy, man.
But they know Truss isn't a tackle though. Like they're in a little bit of a cloudy area though at right tackle because it's like Xavier Truss has played a lot of football. I'm sure I'm sure that they can count on him from a assignment sound perspective. Like they know he's going to be in the right spot usually, but he's just not a tackle. So like there's just going to be some reps where he loses leverage in pass pro and moving to the second level is going to be a hard thing for Truss at times, especially from a wider alignment. Like it's not pretty. Monroe Freeling is definitely the more natural talent at offensive tackle, but then he's only a true sophomore. So like he hasn't played a ton of football. So like they're between a rock and a hard place of like experience versus a guy that's more raw, but probably fits the position better. I do think that Monroe Freeling eventually takes over a little bit because I think that he's just a more natural tackle. But I think they're playing Xavier Truss right now because they, not trying to be super corny, but like they trust Truss. You know what I'm saying?
Jesus Christ.
They do.
Oh my God. Dad joke much? Oh my God.
in Xavier, we trust, baby. I mean, they trust them. Yeah.
I want to end the show right now so bad. Any other known commodities that stood out to you that you thought had good games?
Known commodities. I mean, how do we not talk about Malachi Starks? I guess, right? I mean,
I mean, that's the easiest one to bring. That's a great. I almost didn't even. I didn't even write him down because I was like, okay, of course, Malachi Starks is great.
I was pumping my chest during that game though because I'm like, you remember who's player one for your boy, right? In the preseason, that's player one in my opinion, dude. He's a rare football player. But like again, he would. You know who was interesting to me that maybe aren't super known commodities, but they have three players that could potentially be in this draft. I mean, at least two of them will be. But the wide receivers for Georgia, I think, are super interesting. I don't think they had great games because we need to talk about that Lucas kid, the corner for Clemson, who flashed a lot too. He's like the 6'2" kid. was he 20? I think he was number 20, if I remember correctly.
I had him. No, well,
10.
number 20 is Avion Taylor, who I wrote down who's a true sophomore. Jaden Lucas was number 10, who was playing opposite. I had both. I had notes on both of them. I thought that they both looked really good, but Taylor kind of lacks length. I think he's probably more of an inside guy because there were a couple times where he just allowed a little too much separation because his arms aren't long enough. But the Georgia receivers, the Georgia receivers, I thought impressed, which is huge for them this year. London Humphreys, who they have now, that kid's shifty, man. That kid's got some good feet.
Yeah, track star too. So that kid's good. I mean, you saw it when he had the missed tackle and the long touchdown. Like you could see the acceleration, and he's different because I literally saw 5 people on Twitter compare him to Ladd McConkey. I'm just like, guys, he's nothing like Ladd McConkey. He's like 6'2".
Are we actually really already doing this?
It happened.
God.
It happened. Like,
oh my God, kill me. I get it. Please kill me, somebody.
White receiver from Georgia, so he's automatically going to be Ladd, but like body type is so much different. Skill set is so much different. Ladd was much more short area dude and also explosive. Yeah. This kid's
London's
longer,
long speed.
Yeah, longer, and he's a long striding athlete that can run for days. So yeah, he's an interesting kid for like 2026. I will say like the 3 kids that could potentially be draft eligible. Well, Dominic Lovett's for sure going to be in this draft. I think he's just solid. Like I could see him being a solid day 3 player. I don't think he's exemplary in any one area, but I think he's pretty quick. I think he's going to be solid speed. Like he's just good. He's a good player.
Who's the Western Kentucky kid that was in this year's class that got a lot of buzz?
Oh, as like the Yak King.
God, what was his freaking name?
Malachi Corley.
Malachi Corley. I knew it was Malachi, but I didn't want to. My guess was
maybe. Yak King. Greatest Twitter handle of all time. Yak King. Yeah.
But I mean, I feel like he's going to get a lot of that kind of love of like late day 2, early day 3 yak production type of a guy.
Arian Smith too can run, dude. I don't think he's a great receiver, but like if I'm just looking for a kid that I just want to give a jet sweep to occasionally, or like an end around and then like a screen, I wanted an Arian Smith's hand. You know, the one guy that I was a little bit disappointed with, like not super disappointed with because I still think he's talented, but I expected Dylan Bell to be a little bit more of a well-rounded receiver. I thought he was just more athlete in this game. I mean, but he's a really impressive athlete. I mean, 6'1", 210. I think he's going to run and jump pretty damn well, but I expected him to be maybe like their number 1 receiver, and I didn't necessarily see that in this game against Clemson.
BetOnline remains your top spot for all of your live betting action and contests. NFL, college football, UFC, NHL are all in full swing. BetOnline is your number 1 source for wagering news, odds, trends, and predictions with both desktop and mobile access at any time. Head to BetOnline today and use promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, for 50% off your first deposit. That is a 50% welcome bonus. BetOnline, where the game starts. Yeah, I feel like his role kind of caps his ceiling, and I think that they know that's what he is. It's just, hey, you're going to get the ball at the line of scrimmage. We need you to just pick up some yards for us. This defense, though, and this is including guys that stood out to me and then also anyone that I want to bring to the table, because all of the guys that I had 2 guys that I really wanted to bring to the table is like, these are the next up. The 2, and they're going to be I think the most obvious. One is very obvious. CJ Allen. I mean, that kid is unbelievable. I'll let you give your take on him and not steal any points, but insanely reactive for a true sophomore. I the eyes that kid has in the downhill aggressiveness. I think he needs to add a little bit more power, but we're talking about a true sophomore, so I'm not super worried about that. Jalen Walker, man. Like, I think we need to start talking about Jalen Walker because some of the reps that he had, the length, his get off is ridiculous how quickly he gets off the ball. And then there was the one sack that he had where he has he doesn't really have a super developed pass rush move set, but he clears his blocker and then he just picks up speed like that and then flows and then comes down on Cade Klubnik. I think that kid, we've hyped up Michael Williams as this pure athlete that's going to turn into a star. I really think in the next class, we are going to be talking about Jalen Walker. I don't know if he's necessarily going to be a part of this It's kind of funny though that he's listed as like
he's a true junior, right? Is he a true junior?
Yeah, it's kind of funny that he's listed as a Mike linebacker because like I almost feel like he was more productive.
He is. So he's
more productive as a stand-up rusher.
You know what he is, Joe? He is like a throwback Sam linebacker that you're going to play in the line of scrimmage a decent amount of time because like he's an off-ball kid that can also rush off the edge. I don't know if he's perfect in either spots. I think he's an off-ball kid that you're going to want to do some diverse things with on third down. Like that's kind of how I view him a little bit. I mean, there might be a team that views him as a pure stand-up rusher. I mean, who knows? Yeah. But yeah, that kid has a lot of juice as a pass rusher. There's no doubt. CJ Allen, just kind of circle back to him. He is a true sophomore that people haven't seen him. Number 3. He's listed 6'1", 235. I feel like this is just Roquan Smith again. Like that's who he reminds me of. Yeah. The kid's explosive as heck, but like for a sophomore, how quickly his eyes get to the right spot and he doesn't really fall for flow a ton. Like he's impressive, dude. I mean, there's a reason. I know that we both like Jamon Dumas Johnson from Kentucky. There's a reason though that Jamon Dumas Johnson is playing for Kentucky right now. It's because CJ Allen took his spot. I mean, let's call it what it is, right? So that kid, I'm still like hit or miss on Smile Munden. Like I just am, dude. Like he's a great athlete, but I think his eyes are not great. If he had CJ Allen's eyes, then we're talking first rounder with Smile Munden. Like there's no doubt. CJ Allen though, again, if you're into the way too early 2026 mock drafts, which I'm not into, that's not my bag personally. CJ Allen should probably be in that conversation right now because that kid is good. I think he's Roquan Smith all over again. That's what I think he is.
If there was one kid just from this weekend alone that has confirmed themselves as a first round pick that's not in this class, just like a future guy, he would need to have like a total meltdown. Something catastrophic would need to happen for CJ Allen not to be a first round pick. That kid is so fun to watch. And sometimes it's easy when you're watching tape. I don't know about you, but for me, maybe less for you because you're just so linebacker oriented. But linebackers tend to get lost on tape for me because I just get so. Sometimes. I watch the wide angle, I watch the corners and the receivers, and then I kind of, if a safety pops, I'll write him down.
It's like the RPO stuff too, right? Because like a quarterback will hold it, and like the run flow will be going completely away, and then the linebacker's responsibility is technically to the run flow, and then he's kind of out of the screen. Like I get it. It's definitely a less pronounced position than it once was, no doubt.
It's easy to miss a linebacker, so if one pops to me, they got to be on the ball. They got to be like right on the ball when the ball is at the line of scrimmage, and he's meeting guys in the hole before they even pick up any yards. That kid, as he gets bigger and stronger, that's where the last kind of chip on him needs to improve. Sometimes we get these young linebackers, we throw them out there and they're just all athlete and they're kind of guessing and they're just trying to make plays. And he's definitely there. What do you think of Dalen Everett, man? I thought that Dalen Everett, just like the length, the fluidity, he got beat by Brenning Stool the one time. Yeah, I feel like he's just like your go-to good day 2, early day 3 Georgia corner.
He's only a junior, so I haven't really watched him a ton. But like, I mean, the body type is certainly there. Not to go into the 2027 NFL draft conversation, Joe, but like, holy smokes, this Nate Frazier kid, the true freshman running back, dude. What the heck we have?
I didn't write him down.
Number 3. Oh my gosh, he was their best running back in my opinion. Like, Trevor Etienne didn't play in this game, right? So like that's some context, but like that true freshman, and he was the one on College Game Day where Nick Saban was talking about him. He was saying like that's the best freshman running back in college football, and then he had some flashes where you're just like, yeah, that kid's pretty good. Like someone compared him to Nick Chubb, and I'm like, that's a big comparison, but like also I get it. Like I get it. Can I go to Clemson real quick? There's a couple guys that I wanted to hit on before we
wait before you get to
do it.
We're talking true freshman here. Can we talk about KJ Bolden? Like we have to talk about KJ Bolden.
5-star, dude. What do you expect? He's a 5-star safety. Yeah.
Right. Well, I mean, that's the whole point. I don't think he's fully all the way there because you can kind of see some hesitation, and he looks super light. Like he just doesn't have the play strength for him to really finish tackles. But God, he does not care. He really does not care. He's just like, I'm going to come down. I'm going to try and hit you. I'm just going to do whatever I want. It just looks like an athlete who's flying all over the field and just wants to play football and just wants to go out there and see if he can make plays. I always say I'd rather have, especially at like a position like safety, I'd rather have a young player go full speed than one that's going to hesitate. So maybe he makes a bad read and he kind of misses a little bit. I think KJ Bolden's got the stuff, man.
I saw KJ Bolden this past January at the All-American Bowl in San Antonio, and like it's there. I saw him down there, Joe. I saw the Jeremiah Smith kid from Ohio State that we'll be talking about in a couple years, and like they're just a couple of those guys that immediately you're just like, yeah, he's good. Like, what do you want to say about it? Like he's worth the 5-star billing, and he's only listed, I think, at like 6 foot, 185 pounds. Like that weight will come. Obviously, we're talking about a true freshman. But yeah, he's worth the hype. I mean, he's literally in the 2 deep as a true freshman at the University of Georgia. I mean, like
and he played more than just being in the 2 deep. Like he was on the field.
He's an impact player. He's an impact player. There's
all
no
right, what
doubt.
Clemson guys you got?
So I would say this, Joe, is that I don't think the wide receiver room played great for Clemson overall, but I do think Antonio Williams showed a lot of nice things in this game, man. Like he had tracking the football. I think he's dynamite in space. He had one play where he made a couple guys miss in very tight quarters to get a first down. He had the over the shoulder catch earlier in the football game. Like Antonio Williams, I think has a lot of upside. It's like that short area explosive guy, and he is easily their best receiver right now. I do think that could change if you get TJ Moore reps, you get Bryant Westco reps. They're true freshmen, though. So who knows when that will happen or if it will happen this season. But as of right now, Antonio Williams is the guy for me. I would say the best offense lineman I thought for Clemson was Blake Miller, the right tackle. I just think he's going to be a solid swing on the next level. Like he's going to back up right tackle. He's going to back up left tackle. And he ends up being a low ends, below average starter on the next level probably at right tackle. Sure. Like I could see it. I could see that transformation happening.
The thing with, not to jump in on you there, the thing with him that was annoying is what you just said is super true. It's the same guy that he kind of was last year coming into this year, steady, but doesn't totally flash as an athlete enough.
He doesn't have power. He just doesn't have power right now. He's listed at like 300 pounds, and I'm pretty sure there was I'm pretty sure we had a brain grade on him that had like 298 or something like that. Like he's just light.
He looks
right
like
now,
it,
dude. He needs to add power.
The thing that bugged me with him, there were some people that were throwing him in the top 5s and higher in their tackle rankings, and it's like, can we just say that
borderline top
Can we
10,
say that a guy is like quality and he's a day 3 pick without getting all like gung ho and overly reactive? It's just, it's annoying. It's really, really annoying because when I say this is a day 3 pick, it sounds like I'm crapping on him and I'm saying this kid's not good. That's not what I'm doing. But for some reason, when those lists are put out by like moderately reputable outlets and by YouTubers that have big followings, people that don't watch the film just start talking about these kids, and then they're like, oh, why don't you have Blake Miller in your top 10? And it's like, because I didn't think he was good enough to be in my top 10, but I don't think he's a bad player.
I just don't know where we went off the rails, where being a draftable football player and sticking on the next level is a bad thing. Like we've suddenly phrased that to be a bad thing for
biggest frustration. Frustration.
2 guys, and then I'll be done with the Clemson guys. So Phil Maffa, Joe, is explosive in straight line, and he is super powerful. Like power that he brings is dope. I mean, he can break tackles and he can create extra yardage.
It's kind of like Estime.
A little bit. I do think that he is very tight, though, man. Like, I just don't think you're going to ask that dude to change direction. And he has some injury stuff. But, like, in the game, I thought he looked like he belonged there. But I also just question if he has much upside. Like, I gave him a 6th-round grade in the preseason. I just think that's what he is. Like, he's a 6th-round, late day 3 running back.
He's like Gus Edwards.
Could fit. Yeah.
That was who I compared Estime to.
Oh, God, you're an idiot.
I said it on this show, and you don't remember getting mad at me when I said that I think he's just Gus Edwards?
I don't. I tune you out after a while. Last guy, there was a bad drop during the game, but Jake Brenningstool is a very good receiver, dude. Like that one-handed catch he made was just like, all right, fella, chill out. Chill out on that. But yeah, I think that he is my favorite right now to be tight end too. And we'll see if that comes to fruition or not. I still want him to continue. I wait to that frame. He did look bigger, though, than he did last year. I don't know what the measurement and all of him, but he looked a little bit more filled out. He had the bad drop during the game, but like there was a few reps where I'm just like, okay, there it is. Like that's it, especially that one-handed catch. So I still am a big fan of Jake Brenningstool after this game.
Yeah, Brenningstool kind of fit into the pocket of me of just like super, super known commodity. And I think that throughout this year, he's just going to keep stacking big plays and big stat lines because they don't have anyone to throw to. They don't
Antonio
really
Williams,
have anyone
baby.
to throw to.
Give him some credit. Give Antonio Williams some credit. Come on.
Yeah. I like Brenning Stool though. I think that, yeah, I know. But outside of that, it's like, okay, what do we, that was what was so stupid coming into this game. Anyone who was like, oh, Clemson's going to keep this thing close. They always go to Brenning Stool, and then maybe Antonio Williams was the guy who emerged. The thing I kept saying was, if somebody emerges in this game, they would need to have a ridiculous performance to keep Clemson close enough in it when the separation starts to happen late in the game. And that's exactly what happened. They separated. They had to throw the ball more. Nobody was open. All of the edge rushers and defensive linemen started to hit home. Wait, I had one more guy, which I wanted to bring up really quickly, that actually technically two more guys. I just freaking closed it.
Come on, man.
I had the depth chart up.
Warren
Brinson, I was prepared. Warren Brinson had like a really good 5 plays and then just got hurt and then was off the field. I don't know what's wrong with him. I think that Christian Miller, though, man, number 52 in the interior, who stepped in for him. Young kid. He's in the description of somebody who is going to rotate most of the year, so we're probably not going to get enough exposure for him to be in this class. Yeah. But you saw why he was a recognizable name as a recruit, just really low to the ground and good power.
I hate Georgia, dude. I hate Georgia. Like, how many teams
could
lose?
Evaluate these guys.
How many teams could lose a player like Warren Brinson, who I think is a mid-round draft pick, by the way, probably like a 4th rounder, and then throw in a borderline 5-star, and then also the backup. I don't know if you noticed this, Joe, but remember we did a little bit of high school film in the past.
Yes,
the backup to Nazir Stackhouse was that Jamal Jarrett kid who's like 6'6", 340. It's like, all right, brother, all right, chill out, man. It's insane.
But that was when it was crazy to watch this game, and where like we can sit here and say that like this is the most insane defense in college football, better than any other team, is that they just keep rotating guys in, and on every rep it's like, oh, all 3 guys cleared their blockers and they're like just waiting at the line of scrimmage, and CJ Allen is right behind them. It's like, how the hell are you supposed to move the ball on a team that plays like this?
Can you imagine being a second team interior offensive lineman has to go against his first team that's like rotating those bodies in? You're just like, oh man, I hate my life. Like, it is not a fun life at all.
Imagine being Phil Maffa, all excited about the season. The ball is handed to you in your chest, and you're like, all right, here we go, guys. Here we go. Big game here. And then there's just 3 defensive linemen waiting to beat the shit out of you.
How many? In his mind, he's just going like, how many 6'4", 320-pound guys do they have on their team? Like, this is insane.
Did you have anyone else that you wanted to get to?
Nah, man. I think that pretty much covers it. I mentioned the Lucas kid at corner, number 10 for Clemson. He's long as heck. I think that he has some upside, and Clemson's been doing a pretty good job of pumping out corners in the past few years. So that's probably a guy to keep an eye on as he continues to develop.
I feel stupid asking this question. I wonder if Avian Terrell is related to...
He's related to AJ Terrell.
He's related to AJ Terrell?
He is. I think he's his younger brother. I'm pretty sure. I heard that.
I love that ESPN's picture for Avian Terrell is a random white guy. It is not Avian Terrell.
They always do that, dude. There's so many where I'm just like, that's not that person at all. Like, even close to that person.
So, he is really... Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting. He's a little smaller, right? He's a little smaller than I was expecting him to be. He was 5'11". This is a slot corner in the NFL, man. I think that he could probably be a pretty good slot.
He's a Westlake guy from Georgia, so that's a pretty good program. Yeah.
All right. Well, if you got no more thoughts, we'll close out.
Let's do it. Let's close.
All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. We've had so far pretty good response to the first video we did here. If you enjoy the show, drop a comment below, 5-star review. Hit that like button, hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out on more, and we will talk to you next week.